here on NBA TV, and we're with you until tip-off at the TD Garden. Let's take a look at the Eastern Conference standings before we get into all of this, because it's a 9-game slate on this Monday night, and we've got, well, games that could determine some of this, even right here on our air. There are 5 teams that have locked in playoff berths thus far. The Celtics are sitting in 4th, which means they would receive home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs with the tiebreaker over the Indiana Pacers. Now, our Jared Greenberg is reporting from Boston, and he just caught up with Al Horford.
Al, let's talk about this team who's in the midst of finding itself here with a few games to go still, and with all the injuries you guys have this year, obviously to different degrees of injury, but how do you balance getting healthy for the playoffs and also getting on the court and finding that rhythm you need in the postseason?
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing is health. Like you said, I think we need to be healthy, and then I feel like we've played enough to know what we can do, and this will be a good challenge for us tonight, you know, to come out and compete at a high level.
How are you feeling?
I feel good. You know, I feel good. I've had some games off recently here, much needed for me, and I'm just trying to be in the best position once playoffs start.
What do you think, whether it's a change or an improvement, what needs to happen on the court when the team is fully healthy and together to get to that level that you know you can achieve in the playoffs?
Well, I just think it's, you know, just being focused throughout. And I think that last year we did a good job of that in the playoffs, and this year I feel like our guys we will all do that as well. Be more locked in, and something for whatever reason we haven't been totally committed to like we've been in the past, and but it's something that, you know, if we want to have any type of chance of doing what we want to accomplish, you know, we have to be more locked in.
So do you buy into the whole mentality of you can flip the switch?
Well, you can't flip the switch. You know, that's why these games right here are so important. I felt like Indiana the other night, we did a good job, really locked in. Tonight, and this week in general, we played Miami twice, Orlando, you know, some Indiana again, some great challenges. So all those games we really need to be locked in.
Last thing I want to ask you about is Dwayne Wade playing here tonight, and I know you're focused on getting a win, but what do you recall about going up against Dwayne? So many battles for a long time, you playing in the same division as him.
Yeah, just tough. You know, just a guy that, you know, people always talk about highlight plays and, you know, but I just think that his will to win is always what stood out to me. Always making those plays, you know, whatever his team needed, whether it's a score, whether it's a steal, whatever it was, you know, D. Wade was always able to come through.
Al, best of luck tonight. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
This is a Celtics team that's gone 8-11 since the All-Star break. Also a Celtics team that many of the, quote, experts thought could or would win the Eastern Conference this season.
I'm one of those guys.
I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm one of the guys as well. They have 5 games remaining, including tonight, 2 of them against the Heat, 1 of them against the Pacers, 1 of them against the Orlando Magic, and then they wrap things up at Washington. But 4 of those 5 games are against at least Eastern Conference playoff hopefuls. So at this point in the season, are you concerned by a 2-5 stretch over the last 7 games?
I am, because their defense is almost unrecognizable. Their defensive rating in those last 7 games is 115.3, I believe. And it's happening no matter which of their combinations of guys is on the floor. They really don't have that same overachieving ethos that this Celtics team had before they brought in the elite talent. And last year, without the elite talent, they had the young kids that were getting to play very dominant roles. They were so young, when Kyrie and Gordon came back, they'd never played any other role. So it's not like you can say, well, just go back to what you were before. All they know how to be is focal, and they have not taken well to a backseat. And you can see that the evidence of that is most seen on the defensive side of the ball.
And of those young guys, Jaylen Brown will be out of this matchup with back spasms. So as we look at those Eastern Conference standings at this point, they do hold the tiebreaker over the Indiana Pacers. But how valuable do you see home court advantage being for the Celtics, knowing what an advantage they have in Boston?
I think it's critical, but if they don't get to the point where everyone decides they're all about results and not about their individual shine, it's not going to matter where they play. And my belief is they're still the team that's the best positioned to come out of the East. if they all decide they want to be on the same page, because they can be a Swiss Army knife. Brad Stevens has more pieces that he can move around interchangeably than basically any team. Now, they've had some trouble because Aaron Baines has been unhealthy. I feel like they're one big short, which really hurts them. Daniel Tice not being healthy all year really hurt them. But I still think they have everything they need. They just need to decide they care enough about one another to get there and aren't worried about their shine, who's the leader, who says what.
Then whose shoulders does that fall on? Is it on Brad Stevens to find a rotation that consistently works? Is it on perhaps a leader on the team like a Kyrie Irving, like a Gordon Hayward?
Well, I think Kyrie's really taken it upon himself recently. Now, obviously, people will cite the different things that took place along the way where he was much more vocal and outspoken about, quote, the young guys. But I think he's realized that he's just going to have to lead by example. He's seemed much more in tune with everyone of late. I don't think we can point the finger at Kyrie, but I do think Brad Stevens is learning something new. He's never entered the season as the hunt Ed. He always got to coach a team of hunters. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to motivate guys and to get them to accept a role when it's us against the world. And I think there's been some growing pains for Brad in terms of learning how to push the buttons of elite talent. And I think you've heard him say he needs to do a better job. It's what you love about Brad. He's mindful of what he doesn't know. They've got a lot of other people in that Boston locker room that share a lot of blame. Some veterans there that had a certain identity that haven't been displaying that identity. Marcus Smart is a guy that I look at and I go, what happened to the guy that was the dive on the floor all the time overachiever? Even his own individual defensive intensity has gone down quite a bit. And if that's not what Marcus is, they're going to be in some trouble because he has to be the heart and soul of this team.
Then specifically against the Miami Heat, because they not only have this matchup but the next one as well, what do you see as the keys for this Celtics team to just get back on track?
Well, I think against Miami in particular, they've got to match their grind initially. They've got to show up and want to play as hard as Miami is going to play. Because Miami is one of those teams that they don't really have a focal point star. They've been all hands on deck all year, and they're going to come out and play hard. They lack a lot of high-end talent, per se. They make up for it with grit and want to. So it starts by matching that level of intensity.
Well, this matchup, of course, has Eastern Conference playoff positioning on the line, but a little bit of history on the line as well, as Dwayne Wade, the future Hall of Famer, plays at the TD Garden for the final time. It's coming up at 7:30 Eastern right here on